Ask yourself what if, and what is, out there. Roswell. Did you know the U.S. Air Force spent considerable resources to write a report to debunk this historical UFO account? This time, we use AI to debunk the Roswell Case Closed report, or at least make you question what is out there. For this discussion we will reference an official U.S. Air Force report, the Roswell Report, Fact versus Fiction in the New Mexico Desert. Put out in 1994 and later included in the book by James McAndrew, The Roswell Report, Case Closed, and videos available from the U.S. National Archives. The PDF is free at media.defense.gov. Links will be in the description.
I just found the Roswell Report, Case Closed. Do you know of this report?
Yes, the Roswell Report, Case Closed is a book by the United States Air Force which provides an official explanation of the 1947 Roswell incident, in which a UFO was allegedly sighted in Roswell, New Mexico. The report concluded that the incident was simply a top-secret military experiment involving a surveillance balloon, rather than a UFO sighting.
At first glance, it looks like they tried to explain away alien bodies. Are there other things within the report that would raise an eyebrow or question?
The report does address the claims of alien bodies, concluding that the dummies used in the surveillance balloon experiment were often misidentified as alien bodies. However, the report does not address the other UFO sightings that occurred during this time period. Furthermore, it does not provide details on how the surveillance balloon experiment was conducted or why it was necessary. For these reasons, the report has been met with criticism from some who believe that the UFO sightings were more than just a military experiment.
Okay, Joe. I have some good insights to add. Give us a quick excerpt from the Air Force's report to get us started.
The July 1994 Air Force report concluded that the predecessor to the U.S. Air Force, the U.S. Army Air Forces, did indeed recover material near Roswell in July 1947. This 1,000-page report methodically explains that what was recovered by the Army Air Forces was not the remnants of an extraterrestrial spacecraft and its alien crew, but debris from an Army Air Forces balloon-borne research project codenamed MOGUL.
1,000 pages, a majority of which is about dummies? Any thoughts on that opening statement? And my question is, why was so much devoted to test dummies?
The report does provide an explanation as to why so much of the report was devoted to discussing test dummies. According to the report, the MOGUL project involved the use of anthropomorphic test dummies which were designed to gather data on the effects of high altitude on humans. Additionally, the report states that the dummies were often misidentified as alien bodies, which could explain why so many rumors of alien bodies circulated after the Roswell incident.
What else was in the report?
This in-depth examination revealed that these accounts, in most instances, were of actual Air Force activities but were seriously flawed in several major areas, most notably, the Air Force operations that inspired reports of bodies, in addition to being earthly in origin, did not occur in 1947. It appears that UFO proponents have failed to establish the accurate dates for these alien observations, in some instances by more than a decade, and then erroneously linked them to the actual Project Mogul debris recovery.
My question is, why interview people talking about other events and introduce ideas not related to the 1947 event, and then discredit them, and thus the original Roswell story?
The report does not provide an explanation as to why UFO proponents were interviewed about events that occurred outside of the 1947 Roswell incident. However, it is likely that the interviews were conducted to provide a comprehensive overview of the UFO phenomenon, as well as to debunk conspiracy theories related to the Roswell incident. By interviewing people about events that were not related to the 1947 incident, the report was able to show that many of the UFO sightings during this time period were misidentifications of mundane objects and activities. Thus, the interviews were used to discredit the original Roswell story and to provide a more accurate explanation for the incident.
That seems directed, versus an analysis?
The report does provide an analysis of the Roswell incident and attempts to explain why the incident occurred. However, it is true that the report does take a somewhat adversarial stance towards UFO proponents and their claims.
On the U.S. National Archives YouTube channel, there is a great video interview with Glenn Davis. It pretty much gives his version of the Roswell story and he seems pretty credible.
The video from Glenn Davis on the U.S. National Archives YouTube channel does provide an alternative perspective on the Roswell incident. The video highlights the fact that the Roswell report does not address all the UFO sightings that occurred during this time period, and suggests that the report was a cover-up for a military experiment. Ultimately, Readers should draw their own conclusions about the accuracy of the report and the video.
Another critic of the report was Stanton Freidman, who stated, "Crashed saucers are one thing, and could well turn out to be futuristic American or even foreign aircraft or missiles. But alien bodies are another matter entirely, and hardly subject to misinterpretation."
Stanton Freidman's biggest complaint about the Roswell report was that it did not provide enough evidence to prove its claims. Freidman argued that the report was too heavily reliant on interviews and declassified documents, and that it failed to address the other UFO sightings that occurred during this time period. Additionally, Freidman argued that the report did not provide a satisfactory explanation for the Roswell incident, and that it was an attempt to cover up the truth about what really happened.
I think that is a little hard to believe, but I was really surprised to read that there was mention of a red-headed captain, a man named Kittinger, as described in the Glenn Davis interview. I don't think his age lines up with Roswell 1947, but are they related somehow? And why add it to the report?
It is likely that the report was attempting to provide evidence that the UFO sightings were misidentifications of mundane objects and activities. The story of the red-headed captain was likely included to provide further evidence that the Roswell incident was simply a military experiment and not an extraterrestrial encounter.
That seems odd to put in an objective report.
The inclusion of the story of the red-headed captain in the Roswell report does seem somewhat odd, as it does not provide much in the way of objective evidence.
The report mentions Mac Brazel, the rancher who found the debris. Read that quote from the report. It seems to me they were kind of blaming Mac for the report of the flying saucer.
Here's the excerpt. "Monday he came to town to sell some wool, and while here he went to see Sheriff George Wilcox and whispered kinda confidential like that he might have found a flying disc." The report does not provide any evidence that Mac Brazel was the reason the Army Air Force sent out the initial report. However, the report does provide evidence to suggest that the initial report was based on misidentifications of mundane objects and activities. The report states that the initial report was based on rumors and eyewitness accounts which were often exaggerated or misidentified.
To wrap it up, can you read the Air Force's conclusion and give us your own opinion?
The report closed with, "In the final analysis, this examination simply illustrates once again that fact is indeed stranger, and often much more fascinating, than fiction." Ultimately, readers should draw their own conclusions about the accuracy of the Roswell report. While the report does provide a comprehensive overview of the Roswell incident, some have raised questions about its accuracy. For me, I think the answer is still out there.